Assalamu alaikum. Today we are here with Mr. Jawad Majid Khan, and we would be talking about COVID-19. What are the after effects? What is the second wave coming? And we will be talking in the economic perspective. We have seen that COVID-19 has caused a lot of economic loss to a lot of organizations, a lot of countries. So, being a banker, uh, we would take the initiative, we would take the suggestions of Mr. Jawad Majid Khan that what is his insight about all this ongoing situation. So, sir, on to you, sir.
Ji, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Pleasure to be here and thank you very much for the invite. So, yes, COVID has really transformed the world, and this pandemic, which was an international phenomenon, has really changed everything. Starting from social distancing and the lockdowns and the global travel, coming to a halt, the globalization effort, which was going for decades, has suddenly, there is a stall on everything. We see a lot of online activity even today. We would have sat face to face rather than we are going on Zooms and Skypes. And so trends have changed, traditions are transforming, changing. We are getting into some hybrid modes. So yes, it has even changed our basic value system. Even the societies, even the world that we live in, which is like the Southeast Asia. We usually have a lot of community engagement and meetings and all that. So yes, it has really changed. We couldn't even go to our mosques and churches. We couldn't attend. Schools were off, universities were off, the public gathering places were off. So now as we speak, the first wave, as you were mentioning, is gone, and there is a chance of a second wave or a revival of the same pandemic. So Pakistan has somehow been one of the lucky countries, I would say. Allah has been very kind to us. That although initially the numbers were very high, but must appreciate the efforts of our government and also our society in general. That we probably are one of the best managed country and societies who coped with COVID in a much better manner, even better than US and Europe, and even our neighboring countries. But as we speak, the way you see it on, the government, even the Prime Minister is addressing the same, all the government and media, and even on social media, we see that even when you call somebody, there are messages that although we have done well, but there is a chance of, a second wave. So we should not get complacent, and we should try to be careful for ourselves, for our families, for our friends, and as a whole for the society. So this is how I see, purely
Sir,
on the pandemic thing.
so you mentioned that Pakistan is being praised by the whole world. The US representatives are also appreciating the efforts of Pakistan. But economy is
Yeah,
the main thing. Economy is the
yeah.
main pillar of a state which runs it and which helps it to regularize its all things. So, what is your stance on the economic efforts that are being done by Pakistani government? Are they good? Do they need improvement? There should be some more initiatives, or what is your take on that?
We have to look at the Pakistan economy and the economic issues that we have. Uh, with COVID, I will explain that to you, but without COVID also, we have our own economic problems and economic woes. So COVID has rather further, hit us as far as the Pakistan economy in a negative way. It has hit us. But generally, we were not doing very well even before the COVID came here. So I will just take a little more time in explaining to you. If you talk about Pakistan economy, you need to understand that there are certain fundamental flaws that we have. There are certain areas where we really need to reform, transform, and that too we have to immediately do that. And that is not possible just on papers or through policy. For that, we need to have a cohesive and an inclusive approach whereby all the stakeholders, uh, those who are in power structure, the private sector, and even the general population, they all need to participate one way or the other. Until unless we do that, we will always be repeating that Pakistan economy is suffering, it is going down, and as such, I would be very upfront that situation before COVID and even after COVID is not that comfortable. And until unless we address our main issues immediately, things will be very bad in the next few years. So some people even say, the economists say, even I'm convinced that even if we don't fix that immediately, we are almost nearing a fiscal failure state, which is absolutely not desirable. That too, with our geographical and also the security issues that we have. So we really need to go for a quick fix. So if I try to explain to you in a very simple manner, what are the major issues that Pakistan economy has? The number one is our revenue. We have not been able to fix our revenue, and our revenue consecutively has been, or consistently it has been much lower than our expenses. Okay, so there has been a situation, if your expenses are high, your revenue is low, so there is a gap. So what we are doing is we are fulfilling that gap through consecutive debt. We are taking foreign debt, we are taking domestic debt, and that debt again becomes, after revenue, it becomes the second largest problem of the Pakistan economy. So number one, we need to fix our revenue. How can we do that? We can do that through our FBR. The central government has to do that. The provincial government need to do that. Today, as we speak, our tax to GDP ratio is one of the lowest in this region. And if we compare that with the developed economies or even the emerging markets, our debt to GDP ratio is it's less than 11%. So till the time as an economy we don't achieve 18.5 to 19% of tax to GDP, we will always remain in this vicious circle where our revenues will be less than our expenses. So 19% of tax to GDP is the break even. We need to do better than that. Even if you look at countries like India and Bangladesh, India probably is more than 19.5%, Bangladesh is 22%. We talk about Turkey, I think they are 26%. So we need to really fix our revenue. How to do that? We need to fix FBR, which is the actual, the institution which collects the tax. Number one, they also need transformation. They have gone redundant. They have not been able to, cope with the ground realities. Then we need to increase our tax base. There are few sectors who are huge otherwise, but they are not paying tax. If you look at the people who pay income tax, they are probably slightly more than 2 million. And 70% of those are people who are salaried and their tax is deducted at source. So we really need to increase that. We need to, think about innovative things. And the name of the game is we need to go for income tax and direct taxation. Indirect taxation is like an inequitable and unjustified, whereby I explain it very, in a simple term that when you are buying a toothpaste, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, the richest elite, even myself, or even our servants, or the poorest of the people, they all pay the same tax on buying the same toothpaste. So this is not equitable. Every income needs to be taxed, and for that we need to, think out of the box. We need to, the government and all the institutions, they need to be very firm, and they make sure that there are no holy cows. Every income needs to be taxed. Every sector needs to give tax. So we talk about the taxation which needs to be introduced on the agriculture side. We talk about the real estate sector. We talk about the capital markets, and there are so many sectors who are not giving tax. So number one, and simultaneously, there is a huge undocumented economy in Pakistan. So the total GDP size of Pakistan is somewhere around 270 billion US dollars. It is said that about the same amount of economy is undocumented. So the actual size of the Pakistan economy is much larger than what is documented. So we need to think about some innovative techniques, and we need, again I would repeat, we need to think out of box and bring in some revolutionary steps. Maybe being a 97% Muslim country, we can come up with uh, schemes like zakat and ushur, that if somebody is I'm talking about the undocumented sector, for bringing them into the documented sector, if they are paying 2.5% of zakat every year to the government, and if they are giving ushar on their produce, so they will be exempt of the conventional taxes. So there can be so many other ways to go about it, but we need to fix our tax collection. And this is a difficult step, and everyone needs to all those people who have been, even in the retail sector, people don't pay tax. So this is the time that everyone needs to sacrifice and participate. Otherwise, we are going nowhere. So revenue, undocumented economy, and third is our debt issue. So debt will automatically be resolved once we are able to fix our revenue. So for me, number four, yeah.
So, sorry to interrupt you. So, you quoted that economy is backed by taxation and taxation should be uh, controlled by FBR. So, if talking on the government's perspective, FBR has provided a lot of opportunities. They have provided the IRS system. They have made paying your taxes easier. They have just made it into a one-click thing. So, if we are not paying the tax ourselves, that means we are to blame as well. We are playing the 50% role. We are also not paying our taxes. We are hiding our wealth, and there are people storing their money in tax havens outside the country. So FBR should play its role, but it is also a responsibility upon us to effectively and to responsibly pay our taxes and not hide our actual wealth from the state.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. From that was the word from where I started. That as a nation, we need to realize that until unless we pay tax, we are going nowhere, and every income needs to be taxed. This is what I was saying. So FBR has its role, just by giving one window or all these things. These are just gimmicks. The entire structure of FBR has gone redundant. They are not up to the mark, and that the entire machinery, it is inefficient. It is either corrupt. But I also agree with you that as a nation, we do not have this tax culture. One of the reasons is, and one of the excuse that everyone gives, that what if we give tax, it is not coming back to us. What is happening? There is no reinvestment in education, in health, in general welfare. So even if we pay tax, it doesn't come back to us the way it is happening in Europe or US and other developed countries. So why should we pay tax?
Yes.
That's what I was saying. That everyone needs to realize that all these people, I 100% agree with you. Most of the people, Pakistan, every Pakistani is paying tax. The way I explained to you, you buy anything, you are paying sales tax, but that is indirect taxes. So in a way, everyone is paying tax, but those people who matter, those sectors who have to pay tax, they are not giving tax. Okay, so those sectors I explained to you, we can really have a special program where I can really explain to you what each sector needs to do, what FBR needs, what is there that the revamp that FBR needs to have. So we need to fix our tax. Okay.
Sure.
So tax revenue. Number two is our undocumented economy. Number three is our debt
That's it.
issue that we have. As we speak, the debt to GDP ratio has almost reached 86%. After 3 years, this debt will be unsustainable. We will not be able to pay. It will be very difficult being out of 43, 44% of your budget on day one. It goes towards debt servicing. So the way we are, increasing our debt, there will be a time where this debt servicing will become more than 50 or 53% probably in the next couple of years. Then we have to take care of the defense budget, which is, a requirement as a national security state. Then we have to run the government. How about the PSDP? We have to pay pensions and grants and subsidies.
Yes.
What about the developmental expenditure? So that's what I was trying to explain, that if we don't fix it quickly, we'll go towards a fiscal failure, that we will effectively be paying everything, even our defense budget, through borrowing further money from IMF. So what about our sovereignty? So things will become very difficult. So going forward, I think the fourth biggest problem of Pakistan economy is the SOEs, the SIG entities or the government entities, state-owned enterprises. You'll be surprised that they take a major chunk of Pakistan's budget is allocated towards grants and subsidies. On average, these SIG entities take about 750 to 700 billion rupees every year. And you talk about PIAs, you talk about steel mills, talk about the oil and gas related, you talk about WAPDA related, the GENCOs, the DISCOs. They are a drag on the exchequer. Every year, if they are taking about 650 to 700 billion rupees, that is probably more than your entire developmental budget of the country. So we really need to fix that, either privatize them, close them, or whatever. That might not be a very easy decision, but we need to really go for a quick fix. Next is that as a nation, our saving rate is one of the lowest in the world. So the gross national saving rate of Pakistan is about 6%, which is as low as the African countries. The approximate saving rate, the national saving rate that I'm trying to tell you is, in the developed world is more than 40%. Again, we talk about Turkey and so many, and we try to follow. They save about 36%. India is about 23%. Bangladesh about 25%. So the gross national saving is effectively your internal capacity to save, and those savings go into the reinvestment. So as such, Pakistan's saving rate defined the potential and the capacity of this country to reinvest. So we are saving lowest in the world. So we are, obviously there is nothing to reinvest. So the productive capacity of a country is defined through the national saving rate. So there again, this is a full-fledged topic. We need to discuss how can we, improve upon the gross national saving rate. Anything below 20% is, I would say, poor. Last but not the least, if we need to get out of, this nation has to get up to the curve of global development, we really need to invest in our people. With all these problems, the government has nothing left to invest in the people of Pakistan. How do we invest in the people of Pakistan? I would repeat, education, health, and social welfare. On average, for the last 3 decades, the governments don't have a capacity to spend more than 3%. That's it. So there's nothing with these governments to invest in the people. So what is happening is that even today, we talk about our political issues, our other issues, socio-economic issues. They are there because majority of your population is illiterate. Your health standards are probably lowest in the world. The latest indexes say that child mortality rate and other indicators, we are even lower than Afghanistan and Maldives and Bhutan. With a nation of 220 million people, we have nothing there to invest in the people. And that situation is worsening every year. Although we boast a lot about that we are a young nation, more than 60% of the population is young. Those people who are between the age of 18 and 30. So we call that a youth bulge also. So what are we doing about that? This is a great opportunity. If this majority of population, which is young, they can be in a productive, they can be given a productive environment, a conducive environment where they have jobs, where they have entrepreneurial opportunities, nobody can catch Pakistan. But simultaneously, if we are not providing them anything, this is like a time bomb. Unproductive youth will go disarray, and we already have so many social problems. So for me, these are the 5 or 6 agenda points. We need to fix that, and we have consecutively been failing on these. So coming to the COVID situation, even before the COVID situation, I think this current government has made some major uh, fiscal mistakes. I would not
Sir,
say blunders, but they've been poor fiscal managers. Their governance has been bad, although the previous ones were also had some major issues.
sir,
But coming down from a 5.8% of GDP growth, even before COVID, our GDP growth had come down to about 2% or slightly less than 2%. It was
yes,
about 1.8%. So that had nothing to do with COVID. Even before COVID, the unemployment rates were very high. Even before COVID, uh, probably more than 10 million people went down the poverty line, below the poverty line. So even before that, they were not able to, control inflation. Even before that, uh, the interest rate, their monetary policy was totally uh, not in tune with your domestic requirement. While your inflation is 13%, how can you have an interest rate at 13.25%? Even before COVID, we were not able to control our commodity prices too, even today. Even before COVID, our utility prices on average grew at 50%. So that was something to do with major governance, and I would say they were not up to curve in controlling those, because the impact is directly on the common person and the people of Pakistan. And they had made some bad decisions while they tried their level best not to go to IMF, but going to IMF was inevitable. So they wasted 6 to 8 months while not going to IMF, and because of that, the devaluation which took place, although the previous government was trying, artificially held back rupee devaluation,
sir,
but before these guys came in, rupee should have been around 120 versus the dollar. But had these guys, this current government acted wisely, even today, the dollar rupee parity should not have been about more than 140. It should have been, 160 to 165. So they have gone wrong in a lot of ways. So what happened after COVID was that obviously, like all the global economies shrunk by about 15%, so was the case in Pakistan. So
sir,
the predictions are by the end of this year, the GDP size and the Pakistan economy will shrink by about 15 to 16 billion dollars, and about our GDP will further contract by about 10%. So before COVID, if the GDP growth was 1.8, right now it is minus 1.6, 1.7%.
sir,
So people are going jobless. Last, the total employed people were about 6.6 million. That has come down to about 5.5 million people. Over a million people have gone jobless. We
sir,
still predict that during this year there will be about 30% layoffs.
sir,
So
sir,
things have worsened further, but simultaneously, on the debt side, on the balance of payment side, uh, it has been a slight blessing for the government of Pakistan, because most of the debt, the current debt from IMF, World Bank, and ADB was rescheduled, and probably till February and March next year, we do not have a major pressure on the debt interest repayments. So that has been a slight, I would say, relief for the government, and that's why you see, dollars being stable and all those things. But even today, COVID has nothing to do with your vegetable and your wheat and your flour prices going up. That is purely to do with your governance failure. So this is how I see. Another 1 year would be slightly difficult,
sir,
but the core issue remain the same. That until unless we address our core issues, the fundamental issues, COVID or no COVID, we are in trouble.
sir. So, thank you very much for your time, sir. You gave us a basic insight. You did not go very deep, although I'm very sure that you can go hours and hours on this topic. So, from the platform of CGSS, we would just like to say that, as you mentioned, that we as a nation need to unite together in order to fight this crisis, then we have to do it together. There's no other way. And we have to do something about it. Since you use the word fiscal failure, which is, I guess, an alarming word, that we need to protect ourselves now. It is not a matter of just debates now. Practical implementation needs to be done. So thank you very much for your time, Sir Jawad. Thank you very much for giving your time to CGSS. And it has been an honor and it has been a learning opportunity with you. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Pleasure.